Hey everybody, this is DIYDave. If you have an upright freezer made by any of the major manufacturers, chances are you may have a need to replace the outer door gasket. That's what we're going to talk about today on this DIYDave Quickie. Okay folks, we're going to give you a DIYDave Quickie. If you've got an upright freezer, sometimes you'll find it necessary to replace this outer gasket on the door. In our case, our gasket separated and was creating leaks on our floor because it had basically failed. Okay, so replacing the gasket on this freezer is a fairly simple process. It's just tedious. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to get this door off of the cabinet. Now, it may vary slightly depending on exactly how your freezer was made, but the first thing to do is to go up top and notice how the door is attached to the cabinet. On our case, it was just one screw, one bolt that connected it to the top hinge on the corner. Okay? So release that, and then that allowed the door to slide off. There's a bottom pin or a bottom hinge that simply sat on top of a pin. That right there, it lifted up and out. Now, in our case, that was it. All you had to do is lift the door up and out and you were done. In some cases, if you have a more complex or higher end model, you may also have electrical interconnects with the door or the door handle with sensors or something that may require you to consider a wired connection or a wire cable or bundle that may come through the bottom of the unit with it. And you'll have to, that would be the caveat if you try to do this yourself. But the bottom line is release the bolt at the top, lift the door up and off, and you're in business. Now, our gasket failed down here at the bottom corner. You can see where water accumulated. This gasket rotted out and it was leaking all over the floor. It's not salvageable. And since we had to take it out as part of another video when we redid the floor in our utility room, we just decided to go ahead and replace the gasket at the same time. We ordered it. We used the model number from the particular freezer, and we went to I believe it was appliancerepairparts.com. One of the appliance parts companies made sure we got the correct gasket because they all vary slightly. You got to get the right one. And now we've got it shipped. It's in that box right there. And then we got to get the old one off. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this in kind of two phases. If you look underneath the gasket, there are somewhere between 2 and 4 million little Phillips head screws. So what I'm going to do in two halves is I'm going to reach through and I'm going to essentially divide this into two parts. I'm going to roughly go with the upper half, take all those screws out, pull the old gasket out, and then thread the new gasket in, reaffix the upper screws, and then repeat the process at the bottom. Okay, here we go. One. Two. And we are to right about, okay, we're a little bit beyond half. Okay, so now we're going to see if I pulled enough of this where all I have to do is rip this gasket away. Wow, you can't get much simpler than that, folks. Good heavens. Okay, let's unbox the old one, or the new one. Here's the new gasket. I see no indication of top, bottom, upside down, or right orientation. But I darn sure see a wrong size gasket. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. That's the wrong gasket. Well, folks, everything checked out. Even using the model number for the freezer when we went to the appliance place, we got the wrong gasket. So we'll have to stop, get a new gasket, and reconvene when we've got the right one. Okay, folks. Through the magic of YouTube, it was Saturday that we discovered that the new gasket on the freezer was the wrong one. I contacted the company that I bought it from, appliancepartpros.com, and after due consideration, they sent me out a replacement, and this time I believe we have the correct one. So we're going to go ahead and go back to where we were before and get this thing installed. Now we will quite arbitrarily, first of all, we'll get rid of the old wrong gasket. They told me to hang on to it in case they asked for it to be shipped back. And considering that those things are about, this gasket was $105. It was originally $115, but it was on sale. They may ask for it back, and if they give me a label for it, sure, I'll send it back to them. No big deal. I certainly have no use for it. So what we're going to do is we're just going to take this inner lip of the gasket and we're going to slide it right on the outside edge and just fit it all the way around the top. It really couldn't be simpler. There's no particular magic to it. Just make sure it all lines up. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Just make sure that the outside edge captures around the rim. That the edge of the gasket wraps around the door frame in a uniform basis. And that one of the reasons we do it halfway is so we have the other gasket as a reference, probably out of frame, but. Okay. That seems all nice and secure. Let's come over here in the other corner and make sure we get this thing captured in. We're going to try to crawl off. And it's probably worth noting when you screw those screws back in, make sure you don't capture the gasket material underneath the screw. Since this gasket is a little bit stiffer than the original, it might be easy to do. And there's no point in putting these things on Gorilla tight. Just cinch them up and get them just snug. It should be more than adequate. And this part is just mostly a matter of patience. I'm noticing you can't see it over here, but now that I've got these screws in, I noticed that now that I've got these screws in right here, this is a little bit more snug, so I don't have quite as much wiggle room to get this in behind the screw, but it still isn't insurmountable. Like I said, mostly just a matter of patience. There we go. That fixed it. Well. Okay. Okay. Okay, I've got one more screw, but I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to loosen. I'm going to just repeat this on the lower half. I'm just going to do exactly what I did on the top half. I'm going to go ahead and remove all the screws on the bottom and then stretch the new gasket in place and put the screws back. So no point in repeating that entire thing. No, everything filled up here. Oh, there it is right there. Last one. And that, folks, is an installed gasket. Take you up here close. There is the gasket fitting around all 4 of the corners, nice and neat. Probably will double check that corner down there. It looks a little bit cattywampus, but we'll wait until it's reinstalled to do that. In fact, we'll double check that before we put it back on. But other than that, look straight up. That should take care of it. All that matters now is putting the door back on the hinge and then reattaching the bolts. That may vary depending upon your exact model of refrigerator, or excuse me, freezer. So not much point in going over that. I'll go ahead and give you the model number of this particular one. Model number for this particular freezer is LFFH 2067 DW2, made by Electrolux and sold under a variety of brand names. Well, folks, that's going to do it for right now. I guess we'll go ahead and show a finished shot of when this is all reinstalled and the freezer is put back together in its regular location. So stand by for our final shot. It's been a few days since we installed the gasket on the freezer door and just thought we would give you a follow-up. Gasket's working great. Freezer is operational again. And we've started restocking it. We shifted what little we had into our regular freezer, and we're getting ready to start restocking it. A couple of things that we did notice. Initially, when we put the gasket on, this side, when you closed it, did not mate flat against the box of the freezer. That just, I got a little focus issue there. That just necessitated pulling back a little bit. Come on, focus, please. That's better. That just necessitated pulling the gasket out a little bit and just kind of coaxing it forward to lay flat, and eventually it laid flat. One issue that we did have after we first installed is that we were getting frost across here. And the only way that frost can really come in here is if there is a gap in the gasket allowing moist air to come in and form frost on the upper rim. And what I noticed on this side, and it tells you how hard it's holding. One second. We noticed that right along here there was a crease in the gasket, and all I did there to solve that was just to reach underneath this little flap and stretch it out very gently. You don't want to tear it, but once we stretched that out and it was good and flat, I even got a little step stool and went on top and made sure there were no breaches anywhere in the gasket, no tears and no gaps, and it's been working great. So that puts a bow in this project. It's a tedious project, but it's something anybody could do. The gasket for this particular freezer was $105. And aside from it being tedious and dealing with about 30 or 40 screws for real, project anybody could do it with a little bit of patience and a couple of hand tools. So if you have a freezer and you find out that you need to replace the gasket, just look up the right model number, get the right gasket, and it's a project you could easily tackle yourself. So that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching, guys. If it's worth doing at all, it's worth doing yourself. Bye-bye.